Welcome to the Life's Best Medicine podcast, where we are finding hope and healing one episode at a time. No appointment needed, no rubber gloves, and no coping. Just a healthy dose of life lessons to help equip you for this wild journey we call life. Hey everyone, this is a friendly reminder that we are here for entertainment purposes only. We may not even be that entertaining at times, but this is not medical advice. Talk to your doctor, check with your healthcare professionals before making any lifestyle changes or medicine changes. What we're talking about is our clinical experience and what we've seen. And so if you really want our advice, you can consult us. You can actually consult me as a doctor, or you can consult my guest and get all your questions answered. But we can't give free medical advice because we can't pay our bills with that, but we can help to educate you a bit and allow you to think a little bit. And always reach out to your medical professional before making any lifestyle changes. Thank you. Hello and welcome back to the Life's Best Medicine podcast. This is cool. I have a patient he's been doing some great work and he has a great story. So Gene, welcome.
Yep, that's me.
And Truly, the boss behind yeah. So these are the Ecrits, and we're going to hear their story and just kind of, what got them on a path to better health and the downsides, what was the big highlights. But Gene, starting with you, what was the big thing where you said, okay, paint a picture for people of where you were at when you started to, and maybe even growing up, if weight was a struggle for you or diabetes or any of that kind of stuff. And what transformed you into saying, okay, I really got to take my health seriously?
All right. Well, growing up, I was like the skinniest, scrawniest kid there was, like all the way through till high school. And I started putting on a little bit of weight around high school. When I graduated, I was like 170. So I wasn't big, but I was a little overweight. And then basically I started putting on the weight when I bought a car and I had, a job, and I just started eating out all the time, eating fast food all the time. And then like when I got married, when we got married, I weighed like 225. Wasn't super huge, still big. And then I just, from there, because we both eat out a lot, or we did eat out a lot, and the pounds just packed on. I was at my highest, I was over 300. My scale stopped at 3, so I don't know what my highest weight was, but it was over 3. Then I know
was weight never a focus? Like when you were gaining weight, did you ever say, I got to do something, where you go, I'm just living life and I'm like not really even thinking about it?
I wasn't concerned about it. I was just basically, I was like eating the way I ate. And I was like, someday the doctor's going to tell me all I can eat is rice cakes. And that's when I'll change what I eat, because that was the big thing back in the 80s and 90s. Everybody ate rice cakes to lose weight and crap, or garbage food, it's like, so I was like, well, someday the doctor will tell me I have to lose weight. And then I'll worry about what I eat. Before then I didn't worry about it. I just ate what I wanted.
Yeah. Trust me, I tried the rice crackers and rice cakes and all that stuff, Melba toast and a little bit of peanut butter on there. It's like it was kind of a miserable time, and I was gaining weight and my sugars were going higher. I was like, this is ridiculous. Green shakes, all that. So you two, it was just your lifestyle. Let's get fast food. Let's go out to dinner all the time.
All the time, like 10 to 14 times a week. Is we'd eat out, lunch, dinner. We hardly ever cooked at home, really. We ate out almost all the time.
And Truly, were you gaining weight at the same time? Was that an issue for you also?
Well, I mean, I've been kind of a big girl my whole life. I've been the big fat one all my life. But yeah, when we got married, we gained the 25 married pounds that you gain when you fall in love. And then I got pregnant and had 2 kids and gained weight after that. And I'm a teacher and I'm like, I don't have time. Unless it wasn't affecting me, like I didn't think about it. I just, I've always been big. So until he went to the doctor and then they told him about his liver and stuff, then that's when we're like, okay, well, not me yet. I mean, it was him that said, okay, we got to do something, because his liver and stuff, enzymes tests were kind of going wacky. So
yeah, so tell me about that. So you had gained weight, you're up over 300. Doctor says, okay, your liver tests are funny. Probably cholesterol was funny too at the time.
Yeah, he basically I went to the doctor. I never went to the doctor hardly. I mean, there was like a 10-year span from the last time I was to the doctor to the time where I actually started taking my health seriously. And I went to the doctor originally because I had like this bulge right here on my shoulder. It was just a, like a bulge. So that's why I went, because I was like, it's probably cancer or something, whatever. And he ordered some blood tests, x-rays and stuff to check all that out. But then he said I was pre-diabetic, I was anemic, probably have a stomach ulcer, and my liver enzymes were all out of whack. They were unstable. They weren't there, because there's two main liver enzymes. They were like, one was low and one was super high. They weren't balanced out. And he referred me to of course he said lose weight, exercise more, all that crap. And then he referred me to a gastroenterologist or something like that.
Yeah, gastroenterologist. Yeah.
There you go. And then so I went and saw him. He's like, you're not he said you probably have fatty liver. You don't have an ulcer in your stomach. We don't need to scope it. He after looking at the blood work, he's like, you don't have an ulcer. You're probably got fatty liver. So they checked that out, and that was undetermined if I do or not. They couldn't tell. And then they the x-rays and stuff on this stuff here came back. There's nothing wrong with it. He said it was probably a swollen lymph node. And then basically what I did is the very first time I went to the doctor and he said I was pre-diabetic, that day I stopped sugar, cold turkey. I didn't have any sugar from then on, except for one weekend we went out of town and I was like, no holds barred. For that one weekend I had sugar, but other than that, no sugar in the house, no sugar. Basically, and I didn't know anything about carbs at the time. I was just looking at the labels, and if it said it had sugar in it or high fructose corn syrup, if it said it had added sugar at all, I wouldn't eat it. So, if it had natural sugar, I would eat it, but if it had added sugar, I wouldn't touch it. And when I went back to the doctor in 2 months, he said, come back. He said, we'll check your stuff, blood work again, and see if you're diabetic. He said I was pre-diabetic. So I came back in 2 months and my A1C was 5.6 but that's 2 months of no sugar.
What was the initial one?
The initial one, he didn't do one.
Oh, okay. He just saw high sugars and
He just
high
saw
liver
high sugar
tests.
and said you're pre-diabetic.
Okay.
And my sugar was actually it was like 110 or something like that. It wasn't super high. Like right now, I'm wearing a glucose monitor, and the other morning I woke up, or I'm wearing a CGM. The other morning I woke up, my blood sugar was 128. From the dawn effect. So I mean, it could have just been dawn effect that caused that. So I may have really never been pre-diabetic. I don't know. I probably was. Given the amount of sugar I was eating. So because everything we ate, I was drinking. I don't know. I was drinking Mountain Dew every day. We ate garbage.
Had Pepsi in the refrigerator.
Pepsi, chocolate. The whole nine yards.
I don't cook. I'm not the cook at all.
Everything if we did cook, it all came out of a package.
Processed food.
Processed garbage.
Yeah.
So how did you educate your doctor goes, okay, you got pre-diabetes, fatty liver disease. How did you say, okay, I got to get, just intuitively you said, I got to get rid of sugar. But at that point, you weren't really saying, let's get rid of bread and pasta and rice and things like that.
At that point, I didn't know anything about carbs. Really, what I started doing was, of course, I went to the diabetics website and all that stuff, and they're like, oh, you can have all these foods. So I was eating all those foods. I was actually leaning vegetarian because that's what I've been told my whole life. Vegetarian is the way to go. We actually have family members that are vegan. And my sister was leaning towards vegetarian. She ate a lot less meat than I did at the time. So I was eating less red meat. We was eating more fish, more fruits and vegetables, salads. I mean, I was trying fruits and vegetables that I've never tried before. I was trying to eat at least something new every week, because that's what you're supposed to do. And I hated that. For those 2 months, I hated life because, I don't like fruits and vegetables. So it sucked for 2 months. But when I changed and I started eating more meat and stuff was when the doctor I went to see for my liver, he gave me a piece of paper and said, I want you to do this to lose some weight and to help your liver out. And it's on the top of the paper, it said keto diet. He never said that. The word keto, low carb, nothing's ever come out of his mouth, but he gave me that piece of paper and said, I want you to do this. And that's when I started doing the research on keto. And about a week, I did research for about a week because I was like, I don't know. So, I did some research on it, and that's when I found like Ken Berry and other people. And actually, before that, when I was doing work research on my liver, Ken Berry came up and he was talking about it. And I was like, this dude's a quack, man. He's going against everything everybody says. So I kind of disregarded him until I started doing the research on keto. And, then I started, listening to him and other doctors in the field and stuff. And I went keto and I started feeling better pretty quick, and I started losing weight faster. I was losing weight just by cutting out sugar, but, I started losing more weight, after that. And it was never about the weight loss for me. Everybody's like, oh, you look good. You lost all this weight and all that. It was never about weight loss. I didn't care if I stayed 250. In fact, I didn't think I would ever get below 250 again in my life. I didn't care about that. It was all about getting my liver healthy and not being diabetic, because diabetics inject themselves with insulin, and there's no way in hell I'm injecting myself with anything. It's just, I'm not going to do it. I'll die before I do it, So that was my goal, just to get healthier. So those two things were fixed. The weight loss was just a side effect of all that.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. I think that the data does show if you're doing it for your health, you're going to be a lot more motivated and you're going to have better outcomes than if it's just cosmetic and how you look.
Right.
And just saying, okay, and if it is the fear of the needle, go, I don't want the needle. And that's probably, definitely a justified fear, because once you go on insulin, you're going to gain 20 or 30 pounds. You're going to get more insulin resistant, then you're shooting more insulin. And, that's why it's troubling to ever check your insulin or A1C going back, when you're over 300 pounds. That would be the first thing that would be on our mind, saying, okay, there's metabolic disease here, high triglycerides, low HDL, all these other bad stuff that we see. And so tragically, a lot of people, the doctor will wait, say, oh, you're not, their A1C will be 5.9, 6.4, 6.2. And they say, you're fine. You're not diabetic. Keep doing what you're doing. Well, it's inevitable. If you don't make lifestyle changes, you're going to get it.
Right.
And
And
so,
I know that now, back then I didn't,
so truly, what were you doing during this time when he starts making all these big changes? Were you on board, or were you saying, this is
No,
crazy?
I was not on board. No, I'm like, no, I need my Pepsi. And no, like I was not. I would eat salads and stuff, but I wasn't like excited because he never ate anything green. Like I would try to do green broccoli and this and that, and no, so I wasn't excited because I was like, we're gonna have a stressful life around here. And so I wasn't, like, me and the kids did exactly what we were doing because he's got the willpower. He knows what he wants. He does it. For me, it's the opposite. I'm like, why, why are we doing this? So at first, no, I wasn't on board. Like what, the first 6 months, 3 months?
First 6 months.
First 6 months.
Yeah.
So he still had to live with Pepsi in the fridge.
Yeah, there was Pepsi. There was all the garbage was still in the house, but I'm really strong-willed, and I was able to resist it,
And so until he started eating meat, and then I said, okay, I'm a teacher, so I teach kinder, I teach kids, so I'm tired during the day. When I come home, I'm like, I don't know what to cook. So I was like, if we're gonna do this, one day I woke up, I'm like, okay, if we're gonna do this, you have to be the cook, because I can't cook. I don't do any of that. Like, I don't know how to grill. I don't do the meat. So once he started saying, yeah, okay, he'll be the cook, I'll come home, I'll participate. Once I saw that, yeah, we can eat cheese, we can eat meat, and then still in my head, I'm going, oh, but I need the sugar. I'm like, I need something that still is, for stress, like the sugar, the something sweet, because I like chocolate. And I'm like, if you can find things that I can eat like that and still have some variety, then I'll probably be more motivated, But and then it was COVID. During the COVID, I had no excuse not to try it. I wasn't working in the classroom. I was here all day, and I'm like, okay, all right, why not? Let's just try it. And he was losing weight. He was dropping pounds left and right. Of course, men do, women don't. So the first year I didn't drop very many pounds. I, got inches. I would lose a couple inches here and there, but I felt, not that I would admit it, I started feeling better. But then when I went and got my blood work done, because I was on high blood pressure medicine, I was on Prozac, and I was also on Synthroid for my thyroid, which I've been on for 20 some odd years. So when I started losing weight and eating differently immediately, my blood pressure was really low, and I went to the doctor and I told the doctor, I want to get off my medicine. I don't think I need this. And he was like, no, wait. Let's keep taking it. And for my synthroid and my thyroid, I'm like, I'm not feeling any better. Why should I be taking this? Well, let's just double it. Let's add, let's do the higher prescription. Maybe that'll help you. And we had him run, by then he was very educated and he knew what labs to run. So we asked the doctor, run these tests so we can see how these scores are affecting my whatever, my life,
Your thyroid.
my thyroid, because I'm like, why am I taking this stuff if I'm not feeling better? I just keep feeling worse and worse. So then come to find out when we got the results, he really didn't know how to read the results. He had to Google some of the answers. And at that point, we're like, okay, give us a copy. We're going to go home, find me a different kind of a doctor who deals with hormones and thyroid, So after that, I started seeing the doctor in San Diego, telemedicine, and she looked at my results, and come to find out I had Hashimoto's, Epstein-Barr, and no estrogen in my body. So I was going through menopause. So long story short, I got off my meds. I don't take anything except for the supplements. And, I'm now on estrogen and hormones. And I've lost 84 pounds. I feel better.
Like that, yeah.
I'm still in denial. Like I need my, sweet tea, here and there. And then, I don't know if that's too much information, but
no, that's great. That's really important because, really the things that just talking to you bring to mind is it's amazing. It's hard to do on your own. So Gene, all credit to you to say, okay, I'm doing this. Even though my family doesn't do it, I'm not drinking the soda. I'm making these changes, even if it's fear that motivated you at the beginning. But and then also, you're the example and your family starts looking, go, he's losing weight, he's feeling better, he's maybe moving around a little bit better. And then they start saying, maybe I can give up the soda, maybe I can do those things. And it's hard because it's great because both of you, this mindset, I have some people who go, that's it, I'm doing it, I'm in, done. And other people are like, oh, more like you, Truly, going, oh, I don't want to give up my sweet tea, and I don't want to go, I like cookies, can I do those every once in a while? And I think the answer is, look, you've lost 86 pounds, right? You lose 86 pounds and you go, okay, what matters? Like, what do I enjoy? If I can have cookies at Christmas time and then the rest of the year I'm good, or if I can get rid of and it's really, life's about trade-offs sometimes where you don't say, well, I'm going out to dinner, so I'm going to have the appetizers and the French fries and then the big huge dessert. What do I really like? Okay, I really want to have a glass of wine. Okay, maybe I want to have the appetizer, whatever. It's just kind of making those switches where you don't have to be 100% all in. And some people can say, I'm all in, that's it, I made the decision, and I'm not going to think about what I'm not getting. I'm going to say, I really enjoy my steak, chicken, fish, whatever, vegetables, whatever, so it's great that you guys are, that's a huge example that you're both successful, and you go say we have different approaches and maybe different mindsets going in.
Yeah. And then it trickled down to the kids, where we weren't like forcing them to eat everything we eat, because we cook dinner. We're like, well, this is what's for dinner. If you don't eat it, well, then you're on your own.
They're on their own. But the thing is we don't keep anything with sugar anymore. And through my, 2 years of research, we eat very clean. Like I look at all the ingredients. I won't buy anything without looking at the ingredients, no seed oils, no grains, no sugar, I try to eat very clean. And so it trickles down to them. They're eating clean because they don't go buy the groceries. I do, so if they want to eat something in the house, I buy treats and stuff for them, and they eat the, like the high key cookies and stuff like that. They'll eat that kind of stuff that's clean. They don't eat like the trash,
Yeah, and that's part of it too. And there's times, I'm sure both of you had times where you say, oh, I want a Pepsi, and there's none in there. You're like, darn it, where is it? But having it there. As a matter of fact, this morning, for Christmas, someone gave us a fresh baked sourdough bread. And this morning I was getting ready. I'm like, oh man, that looks really good. If it wasn't sitting there, I wouldn't even have thought about it. And I don't eat bread, generally. But I was like, wow, that looks really good, and it's homemade. And you start justifying in your brain. And I was like, okay, I'm in a hurry. I don't have time to do it, to put in the toaster and all that stuff. But man, certain things, and I think getting that balance of not being exposed to it all the time, where it's sitting there. So if, you know, you raise that huge point of being able to have that mindset of saying, okay, even if everyone else is having soda, I'm not going to have it. I'll do without it. And because you have that end goal in mind, you know, and other people who aren't saying, oh, I'm not really having acute health problems. Do I really need to be that strict?
Right.
Yeah, and it's hard though being around, because I at school, like when it's our classroom parties, like October Halloween party, and I'm sitting there, oh my God, I'm gonna have 30 cupcakes sitting there looking at me. And I'm like, I know I'm gonna have one. I can have one, but then I regret my life decision afterward. And I'm like, why? You know, why did I eat that cupcake? But you know what? It tasted good at the beginning, but then I'm like, wow, maybe next time, nah, I'm gonna skip the cupcake. Like, you start to feel, even though I don't want to admit it, you start to feel like, you know what, no. And then my daughter and us, we've been baking, you know, all the options, like the sugar cookies, all the clean stuff. And I'm like, hey, you know what, it actually does taste just as good. So there are options, but it's just hard. It's hard to let go of, it's right there and you can have it, but then, you know, it's not, is it worth it? I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard. You know, I see it a lot in the teachers, the nurses, like people for appreciation will bring in donuts and they're sitting there, and you know, so fortunately in my office we don't have people bringing that kind of stuff. But at my old office, I mean, daily there
Yeah.
was cake, someone's birthday. You're always exposed to this stuff, and you know, it was funny because on my birthday they and made me a huge omelet type thing, you know, and they go, here, this is your cake, you know, because they know, they go, you're not going to eat it, right, if we buy you a cake, right? And that, like, I would just pass it out. And it's funny, I would tease them because, you know, like when there were donuts, they're like, how do you not eat the donuts? I said, well, all I have to do is have willpower for about 10 minutes, because everyone else will wolf those down in 10 minutes and I won't have to worry about it all day again. You know, or it's that same thing where they eat there'll be 30 donuts, they'll eat 29 and one will be sitting there all day because no one wants to eat the last one.
Yeah.
Have to throw the box away and all that. But yeah, it's hard when you're consistently exposed to it at work, you know, and it's just the normal, you know, it's just the way it is with our culture.
Yeah.
So how do you like, and how about, you know, and you raised another really important issue. I'm really glad, you know, yeah, before we came on, they were saying, well, we don't know what we're offering. You're offering a ton, because how do you do it? Like, well, how do you feel when you don't have the donut that day, right? Or when you know, is it like all day you're thinking, gosh darn, I wish I had the donut, or you go, okay, I'm glad I didn't do it?
Well, I'm still struggling with that because, you know, obviously we had October, November, December, the last 3 months. And I'm like, if it's high stress day, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to eat that donut. But then after so many days, I'm like, no, I'm not. But I don't have willpower like him. He gets the willpower done. He's like ice cold. Nope, I don't need it. For me, I'm like, I'm emotional. I'm stressed. I'm like, give me the donut. I will eat the donut. So it's only been like the last couple of weeks where I'm like, okay, maybe I don't need the donut. Maybe I don't need the cake. Like, I feel better. You know, I'm still kind of in denial. Like, it's working because I didn't lose this weight from any exercise. That was the other thing. I always thought you have to exercise to lose weight, but no, you just have to change what you're putting in your mouth and the weight just drops off. And I'm still, everybody's like, oh, you're so skinny, you look good. And I'm like, I still got weight to lose, but you know, if you, whatever you put in and you is what you get out, like, you know, I'm still kind of in the thought process, the denial of it's working. I'm feeling better, but I don't know. I'm just still struggling with certain things. Like, it's hard to resist when it's right there in your face and it's sitting there looking at you. And you're like, eat me. And I'm like, no, I don't need to eat you. But
Yeah, and like you raised a really valid point. You said especially on the stressful days is when I want to have that. You know, a lot of us who are overweight, it's a stress eating. You get stressed out, I go, I need something to comfort me, and if I eat a donut, I'll feel better. And then the other bad side of that is a lot of us, once we get, especially in females, I mean, there's actually studies showing this, that like a guys will be on a diet, like Gene may be on a diet, then he goes out for beer and pizza with his buddies on Friday night and has a great time. And the next day goes, okay, I'm back on track. That was fun. I'm back on track. But women tend to, when they go out and blow it one night, the next day they blow it, and the next day they blow it. They say, I'm a loser. I can't do anything right. And then they feel guilty and terrible. So generally with my patients, I'll tell them, hey, look, if you're going to have the cookie, make the decision and be okay with it. Don't be upset with yourself. Don't enjoy it, because it's not going to make you gain less weight if you're upset with yourself and miserable, and it's probably going to make you eat more.
yeah, and he would say, you know, if you're gonna have a cheat day or a cheat meal, okay, but the next day you're right back on. So I'm like, okay, Like, I get that. Like, it's not the end of the world, but still you internalize that and you're like, oh my gosh, but, and so I'm learning to deal with that. I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. Like, I did way better over this last 2 weeks than I thought. I thought I was going to eat everything, but no, we've been making our homemade stuff and it's actually pretty good. So I think I'm headed in the right direction. That's why I'm like, I'm not 100% on anything. Like, I'm struggling with stuff. So, but
Yeah,
one
and this
day,
time of year, it's natural. I mean, people are going to have more struggles. There's more temptations. There's more, holiday parties, and there's no doubt about it that it gets to be a struggle. But sometimes when your mind's made up, you go, I'm just not eating that. Just like if you think about it, if someone's vegan, it's not willpower. They're not going to eat a steak. They just said, I'm not even considering that. It's not part of my game plan at all. So the carnivores do well because they go, yeah, I'm just not eating. It's not like, well, I might have a low carb dessert they're not eating dessert. Doesn't happen.
no,
So
yeah. His plate is full of meat. He'll have 4 burgers, 4 eggs, and he's trying to get me to eat more,
Higher protein.
which
Getting
is
her try to
hard
eat
for
more
me.
protein.
Yeah, because he'll eat 4 burgers and 4 eggs, and I'm like, oh, that's a lot. I can eat 1 burger, maybe 1 egg, and I'm like, I'm stuffed. But
yeah, it's hard for people to imagine that. Like those, and especially when people are starting out, they're seeing someone overweight. They're like, you're eating 4 burgers and no wonder you're overweight. But you lost half your body weight. I mean, that's crazy. That's
yeah, he
insane.
looks like a totally different person. Like, we went to a gathering, a funeral a couple weeks ago, and I was like, this is your uncle Gene, and he was to his his
To
nephew,
my nephew,
my
yeah,
nephew,
which
and
we haven't seen in probably 15 years. Me and my nephew used to be really close. We haven't seen each other in quite a while, and he was shocked. He was like, he didn't even recognize him.
he was like, what? We're like, yeah, that's us. You lost a lot of weight. We're like, yeah.
Did you ever get peer pressure, like during the holidays, or when people go, "You're too thin. You got to eat something. How come why are you so strict?" Do you ever have that
Actually,
during this process?
I'm glad you brought that up. It never happened till this year. 3 times in this month, they basically said I'm too skinny. Even though I've weighed around 150 since January of this year to now, my weight looks like a straight line. I've lost body fat. I've gained muscle because that's been my goal this year. But I do look skinnier because I've lost that body fat, but I haven't lost any weight. But three different people have mentioned they basically said that I look too skinny. I should put on a little bit, And they're like, don't lose any more, even though I still have about 3% more of body fat I want to lose to meet a goal. I want to be 15% body fat. Right now I'm at about 18 using Dr. Ben Bakikio's formula. So, but yeah, 3 people this time. And at that family gathering she was talking about, her funeral, they one of the people was my brother. My brother's still really big, and he basically, he called me an alien. Says I look like an alien. He's making fun of me. It's fine. But that's what brothers do, right? But he basically he implied that, I'm too skinny. And then him and his friends, which are family friends, we've known them all for years, they like tempted me. They'd walk by with like chocolates and cakes and stuff and be like, here you go. And I'm like, I'm good. I went into that day knowing, because my sister said what they were going to have to eat. They were going to have sub sandwiches. I went in and I'm like, with the mindset, I'm fasting till I get home. I'm eating nomad that day. I'm not eating till I get home. So I didn't eat nothing there, and everybody's like, you're not eating nothing? No, I'm not. I don't need the sugar. I don't need all that garbage, But yeah, it was, and 2 other people told me basically I'm too skinny.
Well, is it like you're not commenting on what they're eating and saying you guys shouldn't be eating that stuff? You just say, here's what I do.
At that family thing, I actually walked in, my sister was getting candy and stuff, and I tell her all the time. I send her videos. I send her, some of your videos. I send her other people's videos and stuff like that, because her husband's diabetic and injects insulin, and she's struggling. She's always struggled with weight a little bit, and she was trying to hide it, like, don't look at me. And I'm like, you can eat what you want. I don't care. You're not hurting me. And she did the same thing. She was over there at the table going, don't look at this. And I'm like,
it's funny, right? It's funny, but it is a funny thing. It is a
It
funny
is.
thing.
They try to hide it from me, but I don't care.
Because you feel guilty. You're like, just don't look at me right now. I'm gonna have this brownie, and just don't look at me while I'm doing it. Like, it's hard. It's hard.
Well, it's
But
funny, and it's funny how that is. And if you say, hey, look, every once in a while, but the thing is, and this brings out a good discussion with regard to, there's all these different ideas out there. A lot of the people in nutrition, dietitians will say, look, if you're too restrictive, it's dangerous. You're going to cause people to binge eat. You're going to cause an eating disorder. And other people, so they'll say everything in moderation. But the thing they don't understand is there's some people, if they have one taste of a cookie, that whole thing's going to be gone. Other
yeah,
people can have one and go, okay, I feel good. I'm happy. That was a good cookie. It was great. But other people will just shove it. And I've just observed people, like if you go to a Christmas party and some people will stand there and they'll just shove food down without even, they're not even looking at it or tasting it or chewing it really.
or
And you go,
enjoying it.
wow. Or enjoying it. Yeah. Like, hey,
That's exactly how I used to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and I think if you're gonna be there and you're gonna say, "Hey, look, it's Christmas, and my Aunt Betty makes the best brownies in the world, and you want to have one, enjoy it, and don't feel guilty about it, and say, okay, I'll get back on track tomorrow," because that mindset. And the other thing is true also is, I have a patient. She was doing great, and she's like, "Oh, you're gonna be mad at me." I go, "Why?" And she said, "Well, Friday night I'm getting together with my college roommates, and we're gonna go out and we're gonna have a big dinner and wine." I said, well, "Why would I be mad about that?" She said, "Well, because I'm gonna have a couple glasses of wine. And I'm gonna have the bread probably." And I go, "You planned it, right? You should be happy about that because you've already planned ahead of time that you're going to do this. Because if you get there and say, I'm going to eat healthy, and then you don't, then you're going to feel bad about yourself. So at least you've made a conscious decision that that's what you're going to do. And then you have to deal with the ramifications of that."
Right.
Yeah. So it's hard. And I see that, with the mindset, especially if you have a husband who loves you no matter what, and you gain 10 or 15 pounds, doesn't matter if you're going to, over the holidays. And so it's hard when you kind of say, okay, what's my motivation for being healthy, right? And long term. And the other thing too is, doing Ben Bakikio's workout is studies show the more muscle mass, especially in females, the more muscle mass you have, the longer you live, the less likely you are to go into a nursing home, and the less likely you are to fall and break a hip. So exercise, even though we don't like it, that combination is a huge deal, especially if you like to have your cupcake every once in a while. Things you go, okay, I can compensate a little bit for that, because if I put on muscle mass, who cares if I send that sugar to my muscle? Doesn't matter. But if you don't have any muscle, where do you send it? To the visceral fat, and that's the metabolically sick stuff, the diabetes stuff. So sometimes it's just making those kind of changes and saying, okay, I'm gonna, I don't have to be 6-pack abs, 15% body fat, and say, okay, I just want to be able to get up off the floor and play with the grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not everyone's going to be a bikini model.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then finding that balance and being okay with it and go, okay, this is sustainable. Because the other thing that some people do, people are like Eugene, and they come out and they go, that's it, I'm all in. And then after 3 months, they're like, screw this, too restrictive. I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. And then they just go back and eat all the crappy stuff that they had that made them, 300 pounds. So like being able to say, okay, let me have, like, it sounds though, but you sound like you're pretty, like, this is it. This is how I live my life.
This is, I'm not changing. I can't, I mean, you've said it before. I've heard on your podcast. I can't unsee what I've seen. The way, from the science and everything that I've seen about diet and stuff, I can't go back to eating the garbage. There ain't no way. And, I lost 100 pounds with hardly working out at all. The first 100 pounds, I didn't work out at all. Then I started getting it more serious in exercise. And then a few months ago, well, it was just shortly, like a couple weeks after I saw you, after we had our visit, I was able to purchase a Total Gym. And that's when I started doing I was doing Ben Bakikio's workout before with bands, but I think with bands, I think you can cheat. It's easy to cheat. Since I got the Total Gym and I started hitting that hard, you can't cheat on the Total Gym. And I think it helped a lot as far as putting on muscle and stuff, and losing more body. I lost like 2% body fat since I got the Total Gym, and I'm doing the exact workout that he describes in his book.
And are you doing it like twice a week?
Twice a week. Yeah.
And how about the other days? Are you active doing other stuff? Like,
I do. I play around with my pull-up bar, because one of my exercise goals is I want to be able to do a hanging pull-up. I can do a pull-up, like, because I have a pull-up bar that goes over the door. I can do a pull-up like this. I can pull myself up, but I can't do a full hanging pull-up yet. But I'm getting closer.
yeah, that's awesome.
That's just one of my goals, and I am getting closer to being able to do that.
So truly, was Gene always a goal-oriented guy?
Not when you talk about diet and exercise. No, we did never. No, this is like an odd conversation. No, because no, we were just living life, eating and enjoying food and having kids, and no, exercise was a bad word in our household. So, but now, even I'm on that crazy train. I started doing bands, and because I didn't realize that I guess 30%, and when you get after a certain age, you get osteoporosis and your bones. And I'm just like, okay, the doctor wanted me to start walking. It's just hard, because I'm a teacher, I'm up all day. So I'm like, what do I need to do? So he's given me a workout to do here at home. So I'm trying to do that. So, I mean, it's not my favorite thing, but then when I don't do it, I'm like, I guess this does feel better. And, so
Yeah, after you're done doing it, it's just the idea of like, oh, I gotta go to the gym, I gotta go do this stuff.
yeah, it's like
it's the idea of
it's
it.
already a negative thing. You're like, oh, it's gonna take forever, and why do I need to do this? And then you do it and you're like, okay. And I'm telling my daughter, come on, Abby, you need to try this, let's go, you might feel a little bit better. And but it starts
Yeah, it's good. It's good that you can change the trajectory of your family and what's, as we get older, it's important because a lot of us wait till we're decrepit and then go, uh-oh, now what? And then you can't reverse the ship. Not, take off 86 pounds. And the problem is that you're not carrying around 86 pounds. So your metabolic rate goes down and all those things,
it's weird because too, like I had to buy new clothes, and I've always been a 2X, 3X. Now I'm extra large, and I'm like, what? Like, it's crazy. And then both of our kids have lost probably about 60, 70 pounds a piece, and everybody,
wow.
where, like, I didn't even realize my kids had 60 extra pounds on their body. Like, because you just see them, you're just like, oh, they look like normal healthy kids, and then after they lose, you're like, wow, it's just mind-blowing, like, that they're doing it. And then my son will eat something, like, I brought him a donut home and he ate it and he broke out, like the stuff made his eczema flare up really bad. So now he's able to see that certain things you eat make your eczema flare up. And it's just crazy.
Yeah, I hear it all the time. That's why I love this time of year, especially because people say, oh my gosh, they were doing great. And then they eat Thanksgiving dinner. And then the next day they feel terrible. Their body hurts. They're achy. They're short with people, on edge. And they go, I was like this every day. I know how this feels. I don't want to feel this way. And that helps you to say, I don't, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Too, sometimes doing those things, like when you do have the donut at work or the cupcake and you go, I don't feel well all day, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm cranky, and so you start realizing, okay, it's not worth it, I'll just have a steak when I get home and I'll be good.
Mm-hmm. And the thing I learned, like, you don't have to eat 3 meals a day. If you're not hungry, you don't have to eat. Like, and I was like, what? Like, okay, if you're not hungry, don't eat, And that's the hard thing, because I would hate to get up and eat breakfast, because I'm just not a breakfast person. And 10:30 I teach kinder, so my lunch is at 10:30, so that's like my breakfast. But if you're not hungry, you don't have to eat. I'm like, that was a hard thing. I'm like, what? Are you sure? And after you figure that out, like, yeah, you don't need to eat. When your body tells you to eat, you eat.
Yeah, and that's a hard thing because so many of us were just hungry all the time, and so it's hard to really say I'm not really hungry. It's a kind of a weird feeling for people, especially when they do low carb and they drop their insulin levels down. They say I'm not hungry all the time. Do I need to eat? Do I have to eat lunch if I don't want to? It's like, well, no, you don't have to if you don't want to. So it's funny how that is, because a lot of us, even my dogs, they know when it's dinner time at 5 o'clock. They're like sitting there looking at me, following me around. Everyone's like, oh, it's 5 o'clock. They know. They don't have a watch, but they know it's time. And so listening to our bodies, a lot of us, we're not hungry and we eat. Like, just like you said, oh, it's someone's birthday, we're going to eat. Like, oh, I just ate lunch, an hour ago. Now I'm going to eat again. And so, sometimes you're right. A lot of this is peer pressure, and, that's our comfort too, stressful days, not sleeping. And especially with COVID, I mean, for both of you losing weight during COVID, that's a huge deal too, because a vast majority of people gain weight.
Exactly.
That's what people say. They're like, what? You lost weight. Well, we didn't have nothing to do. I mean, so I was like, there's no excuse not to try it. So, okay, try it. And then, and then look what happened. So I'm like, it was, a lot of people gained weight.
Yeah, and it sounds like what happened. And, the very few people that I know who lost weight during COVID was that, my salesmen, like all my salesmen who were out, either drug reps or they're selling products, part of their work is dinners and wine and dine people, right? So when they were at home working on the computer making phone calls, they say, well, what's in the fridge? Okay, I'll have a rotisserie chicken. They started eating differently, and not without even realizing, because you go out with the client and you say, well, let's get dessert. So they had dessert all the time. So they just cut that out and say, well, if I'm by myself, I'm not gonna eat dessert. So it sounds like for you, it gave you more time to say, okay, let's prepare dinner, let's cook something, rather than going out and getting it.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. You cook all the time, and then you don't, and it's better for you. And for me, I was like, it's quick, it's fast, let's go get something and come back. But then you're like, oh, it feels, it doesn't feel as good.
You feel like crap afterwards.
You feel crappy, even though I don't want to admit it. You feel crappy.
The next day you feel like crap.
Yeah, or I mean, like, because me and my daughter had Johnny's the other day, and we had our fries, and I'm like, did I really want all that? I could have had maybe a little bit less, but yeah. So I'm starting to regret some of my choices. So
yeah, it's good to think that way though. And you go, okay, next time I just won't order the fries, or I'll do it. And every once in a while, I may say I'll have the fries. Big deal.
yeah.
And if you make that every fifth time I go, it's going to be better than every time. And so it had to be at the beginning. Did it cause conflict at some point where
I was mad a lot? I was just
Yeah.
like, because I thought I needed that stuff, and but I just, but I was still grumpy and moody anyway, because I didn't have estrogen. My hormones were out of whack. Like, I was a zombie. I was going through all this stuff, like crying and depressed on the couch. And I'm like, something is wrong with me. So I was not, I was not the best. But now that the light has opened, the fog has gone away, I'm like, okay, because this has been 2 years for me. And so I would say the first year was, I just went along with it. I'm like, okay, you cook dinner, I'll eat it. Let's go. If I needed chocolate, I'm sure, I don't think we argued and fought over, not really.
No.
But was it was probably times when you said, oh my God, let's just go out and get a burger. Let's go get fries, or let's go get pizza. And Gene's like, no, I'm just going to make a hamburger. I'll make some salmon. It's like, oh no.
Or what I'll do is I'll be like, all right, you guys go, I'll go make me something on the grill, and they'll go out and eat something. Because for me, eating out and stuff, a lot of times it'll flare up my arthritis. So I'll be in pain, and I don't like being in pain. So I choose not to,
Yeah, it's amazing how many people will, even though they know they're going to hurt and be in pain and be miserable, they'll still do it. Just like some people with alcohol, they feel terrible the next day, they still do it again,
Right, yeah.
or whatever it is. So many self-destructive things, like if you eat too much really hot salsa and your stomach's killing you all night. It's like, oh, we still do it because you go, okay, I'll just pay the price, I guess, or maybe it won't happen this time. Like lactose intolerance and people are still eating ice cream. It's just amazing how we do that, and you go, this doesn't make sense. Why would I torture myself?
Yeah.
So what were the easy things to give up? Were there certain things you go, okay, these are like, were there certain things that you gave up and they go, okay, that wasn't too bad?
For me, the hardest thing to give up was bread.
Oh yeah.
I lived on sandwiches. I love sandwiches, and that was probably the hardest thing to give up, was the bread.
How about Truly?
I mean, the sugar, like just chocolate, sugar, ice cream. Well, it was ice cream because I was like, if you can't find me, and then because I was thinking too, I cannot drink water all day, just water all day. So I said, you need to find me something to mix it up. Like, I can drink water till lunch, then give me something to drink. So then we found Zip Fizzes. It's kind of like Kool-Aid. You put it in your water. I'm like, okay, those are good. Okay. So then I got rid of Pepsi and all of that. And then occasionally I drink sweet tea, but it's now like half and half, or no sugar, and I add stevia. And then he found we drink Zevias. So I'm like, okay, it's an acquired taste, but I'm like, I can do this. It's not a deal breaker. Because at first I had conditions. I'm like, you got to find me something sweet, something I can, snack on, because I was in chips. I was into everything. I mean, yeah, when we haven't had a sandwich in
been a long
2 years, no bread, no, we do tortillas and stuff. And then of course I like bean burritos. And so we just found supplements to, things that we can, live on. And, but now it's not really that big of a deal, because I think I'm almost there to where like, I don't really need it all. There's things I can work around, but for me, it was the sweets.
And until she started I didn't look for any alternatives. I just gave it all up. When she started, I started looking at alternatives. That's when I found like Zevia. And I also around that time I started learning more about electrolytes. So I bought like Relight and Element and different electrolytes and stuff like that. And then of course the Zip Fizzes she mentioned, and I started looking for alternatives. So I found like low carb tortillas that weren't total garbage, because most of them are total garbage. I found one brand that's not total garbage. It uses olive oil instead of canola oil. And
Yeah, that's a
different things
good,
like
that's a
that.
great point that you look at that, because there's a lot of them who say, oh, these are low carb tortillas, right? And you go, oh, it has all the bad stuff in it,
It
but
has a
it is
bunch
low
of
carb.
garbage in them. Yeah.
Yeah.
The same with like the low carb breads. I've looked at all of the low carb breads out there and I won't touch them because they're just full of garbage. They're full of just crap ingredients. It's not worth it. A lot of those crap ingredients will cause me pain. They'll cause my arthritis to flare up or my back pain or whatever, and I haven't been in pain. I haven't taken any pain meds since November of 2020. I was living on Tylenol, basically. I was living on Tylenol and Zyrtec. I took those almost, regularly. Tylenol I didn't take every day. Zyrtec I took almost every day. I haven't taken any Zyrtec since, shoot, I don't even remember. And sometime in 2020. And I haven't taken any Tylenol since November 2020.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is deprescribing, and it's funny, truly, like when your doctor, even though your blood pressure is normal, they're afraid to take you off meds because there has to be a reason for that. So I don't want to be the one to stop and then you have a problem. So it's amazing. As a matter of fact, when I started doing low carb, I started looking and saying, how do I deprescribe stuff? Because practicing 18 years, I never had to before. No one ever came off their blood pressure medicines. And so once they did, I was like, where are the guidelines? So some of these great docs out there, they started saying, hey, here's how you deprescribe things. Mark Cucuzella being one of them. I became friends with him, and I'm like, how do you deprescribe stuff? How do you get people off insulin? How do you safely do this? And having, like you're saying, Gene, the continuous glucose monitor, we can monitor it like crazy and say, okay, you don't need the meds anymore. Like when you're off and your sugars are normalized, why do you need meds? And so people are getting, it's insane what they're doing. Is there's people who are on insulin that are getting low sugars all the time, and so they're saying, okay, when your sugars go low, just eat some ice cream or cake or something to get your sugars, or candy. It's like, well, why don't you just get rid of the insulin? Like, it doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like he said, he was like, I wouldn't recommend you going off of them. And I'm like, but why do I need to take them? It's going lower. So he's like, well, you can try on your own. But basically he didn't want any part of that. Same thing with the Prozac. Like I was going to have side effects coming off of it because I'd been on it so long, but I'm like, if I don't need it, why do I need to take it? And at the end of every doctor's visit, even though I was like, I want to get off of this, what else can I prescribe you today? And I'm like, no, thank you. I'm good. I don't need anything else right now. I want to get off of what I am on and just live life without it. And so
yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. It really is. It's amazing, like how that is. So many places the doctors are like, well, I'm not doing something if I don't write a prescription. I have to write a prescription. They're going to leave and they'll be happy they have something in their hand that I did something. And so saying, hey, how do we get you off the meds? And so many people come off meds, and it's so much fun because they realize, oh, that medicine was causing my headaches. Oh, then my cough went away when I stopped this lisinopril or whatever. So it's fun to see other things getting better instead of being on chronically on all these crazy medicines forever, and making those lifestyle changes. And I'm interested to hear with the Prozac in particular, was it the hormone replacement, you think, or was it the dietary changes that made your mood better?
Well, she came off Prozac before we ever found the naturopathic doctor that put her on hormones. She basically did it on her own. We kind of worked together, and she just started like taking it every other day, then every third day, then every fourth day, and then after like a month or so, she was able to come off all the way. We did it on our own, no advice or anything. We knew she had to come off slowly, so we kind of worked it out slowly. It took what, a month, 6 weeks or something like that. Yeah.
But do you feel like it was the bad diet that was making the mood worse? Do you think making the dietary changes made you be able to come off Prozac?
Yeah, I would say so, because there wasn't a justified reason why I needed it. I started taking it for PMDD. I had really bad PMS symptoms, and I had fibroids and all of that good stuff. But I had a hysterectomy. So I'm like, okay, so why do I still need to take this? And it didn't make me feel better, but yet he kept saying, well, let's double it to make you feel better. I'm like, nah, it doesn't make sense. So then we started doing the diet stuff, not the diet, the life change, the
Mhm, mhm.
lifestyle change. It's not a diet. And then I started feeling better. So I would say it would be, the lifestyle change.
Well, and I like that because, it was one of the big things when I first started doing low carb with patients is I noticed that, and Tro and I were noticing it, and we commented on it, and these doctors attacked us and say, nutrition has nothing to do with mental health, and you're crazy. And now we have so many good doctors coming out. Chris Palmer being one of them, Georgia Eid, um, Ignacio Correnta, psychiatrists who were saying, oh, when we change the lifestyle, then people do better from a mood standpoint. But at that point, 4 years ago, it was totally controversial.
Mhm.
No,
But we were seeing it.
mental health is like, I know for a fact that the diet changes mental health, because in 2019 and for a few years before that, I didn't want to live. I wasn't suicidal, but I didn't want to be alive either, because I just felt like crap constantly. In fact, I prayed many nights to die, for God just to take my life, because I didn't want to live. And when, like, my sister several years ago, she was dying of cancer, and I was like, take me instead of her. She wants to live. I don't. Of course, things don't work that way. And luckily, God's answers is sometimes no. You know, so, but yeah, I didn't want to live. I used to be, the first time I had suicidal thoughts was in junior high. And until I was probably like 28 or something, I struggle with suicidal thoughts almost every day on a daily basis. I never attempted suicide, but I always had those thoughts.
Yeah,
And
a
I
lot
don't
of
know
people.
why I never attempted it.
A lot of people have that. They're like, okay, if I die in a car accident, I do, no big deal. I like, it's
Right,
like it's like a dysthymia where you go, nothing's great, nothing's keeping me around. What am I doing here? I have no purpose.
right. But it got worse. I mean, suicidal thoughts kind of went away when I became a Christian. I converted, I didn't convert, but I've always kind of been a Christian. I was born and raised into a Christian family. I straight away went my own ways. I was like, I don't care what you guys believe, whatever. But when I dedicated my life to God, and though the suicidal thoughts faded away, but as my diet got worse and I got older and the pain got worse and stuff, I just didn't want to live anymore. I wasn't going to kill myself, but I just didn't want to live. And so I mean, it's all diet. Diet fixed that for sure. And I also, my anxiety was getting bad. It was getting harder and harder just to go out of the house. I didn't want to leave the house hardly. I did because I had to, I had to for the family. I had to go places, I had to do things, but I didn't want to. It was getting worse and worse over the years until I changed my diet. And I don't have anxiety anymore. I have healthy anxiety now. As that's what I refer to it as, normal anxiety that you should feel sometimes, but not constantly anxious about stuff.
Yeah, it's
And
not that overwhelming, debilitating anxiety. It's anxiety that gets you out of bed. It makes you go do stuff. Like, I got to work.
exactly.
You have certain
Yeah.
things you got to do, in order to get, so stress is not the killer. It's chronic stress, chronic unrelenting stress. Because stress is a good thing in a way, like when you jump in a cold pool or your body reacts to certain things and gets you out of that situation. But if you're in that situation chronically all the time, and that's a hell for people on earth, is that, again, lack of faith, and also lack of, like, if I'm here or not doesn't really, I'm not making a difference on the earth, and I'm in pain all the time, and and so, making those steps, it's hard for people to really understand. But I hear this all the time, where people say they walked out of a fog and they felt better, and like Fat Fiction, that movie, my patients all said the same thing, but they cut it out of the movie because it was too controversial at the time.
Right.
But it was the reality and truth of what we were seeing, is that people's mood was getting better and they were happier in the relationship, maybe, because when you're both hopped up on sugar and tired and hurting, like, you're not going to have a good relationship. It's everyone's on edge. It's like when you're tired and hungry is not the time to have a conversation about something, right? Because it's never going to end well. But the next morning when you have breakfast and everything's fine, like, oh, that wasn't a big deal. Why was I so upset about it?
Yeah. And it's just like you're surviving. You're fat and surviving. You're not living. You're not excited. You're not feeling, it's like you're in that fog, but after that you're like, oh, this is what it is. Okay, get up, let's go do this. Like, you're just more excited to be alive, I guess. to be.
Yeah, and it's rubbed off on your kids and your family and friends, and people are looking at you going, wait a minute, they're doing something different,
Yeah.
so I think it's just such a huge thing. That's why your story, I'm so glad you both agreed to come on, because you brought up so many really important issues that a lot of us just don't understand, or the mood stuff, the doctors perception on things. And so, I think a lot of people out there can identify with you, and as a couple, and being the one that, I'm telling you, when we go through the number, and this is why your story is so important. When we talk about Tro, all the experts that I talk to, we say who's going to fail, and generally the person who's failed, number one, lack of family support, right?
Yeah.
Number two, stress and depression, anxiety, life stress, because it's, we're all under stress, but some people, the stress will say, like you said, hey, I want a cookie. I don't care how, I'll get off the plan tonight and I'm going to have a cookie. But then that cookie makes you more stressed, and then you want more cookies, and then you get into this whole cycle, and it's hard to break that. So every once in a while, if you're eating because you're enjoying eating, because you're at a family get together and it's a social thing, it's different than I'm stressed out and I need, because it's a drug at that point.
Mhm.
And at other point, it may be just saying, hey, this is social and I enjoy it, and this is how I bond with someone. So you can go too over the top one way or the other, and so it's just kind of figuring ourselves out and what works and what doesn't, because it's great because you two have such a different personality type of dealing with this. And it's important because if Gene would have just given in all the time whenever you want to go out to fast food, then he wouldn't have the success he did. He stood
Yeah.
strong. And as long as one of you stands strong, I mean, you guys are unique in that way, because generally what happens is people have been eating fast food their whole life and they love it, and then one of them one day is strong, and then the next day they're weak, and then one of them can stay strong each time. But in your case, it sounds like Gene was the one running the show, going, okay, I'm not going to eat it, you guys can go, but I'm not going to do it. I'm gonna do so. And then you go, I don't want to go without him. Okay, I'll just have what he's having, even though it doesn't sound great.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just do that. But that's a cool thing, is that as a couple, your relationship is better, and that you can enjoy each other's company and not be stressed and suicidal and depressed. It's horrible to go through life like that. Losing a few pounds is nice, but the mood and the relationship is really important.
Yeah.
I'm actually reading Chris Palmer's book right now. I'm on like the second chapter, the brain energy.
Yeah, what do you think so far?
So far it's pretty good. Yeah, I'm only 2
Yeah.
chapters in, but it's so far it's pretty good. I'm liking it. It's one of the many books that I've been reading. I've read, years ago I read The Lord of the Rings. It took me a year to read one book, because just the way my brain wasn't all, was foggy and stuff all the time. I've read, since I've started this way of eating, this lifestyle, I've read about 6 to 7 books every year.
Wow.
So, and they're all, 2 of them weren't health related. All the rest of them were health related, either dental, thyroid, or just cholesterol, different health related books.
That's good. And being mentally active and learning and going through the process. So it sounds like you two are doing great. That's good stuff. Even if you have some bumps in the road, but we need to have bumps in the road sometimes. You kind of, steer straight again and get off course and steer straight again. But it's just being off course for forever. That's the issue,
Yeah.
So I have to ask you both, since it's life's best medicine, I think I'll have Truly go first.
Well,
So
I mean,
what's life's best medicine for you? Where do you go when things are hard? What keeps you going? What keeps you, make life have purpose for you?
well, I mean, I'm gonna cry, but it's for me, I've always told everyone that find something you like to do and do it. So for me, that's like teaching. If I am not around kids, 5-year-olds, then I just don't see a point. So they keep me going, they keep me motivated, just to see their cute little smiles and their view on life. There are no filters. So for me, it'd be teaching and being around kids all day.
Nah, I love it. My wife's a middle school principal and she loves it, man. The kids just love her. It's crazy. She gets so much stuff at Christmas time and all that. I mean, the appreciation and
that's the problem.
yeah, that's a problem too. Yeah, that's a problem. That knocks us off too,
Yeah.
So, but I think that's so great to breathe into the next generation and to have a passion like that. My teachers that I know are very passionate about what they do, and they care, and they're spending their own money on construction paper and projects and thinking at night how to make it better. And that the impact, I remember my third grade teacher being cool, going all the way back. So it's pretty amazing how that the impact that you can have on lives, and loving them and being kind to them and all that.
Yep, it's fun.
Gene?
I would have to say a hobby that you like and enjoy. My hobby is actually games, video games, board games, just games in general. I'd have to say a good hobby that you could enjoy. It takes the stress off of life. You can kind of lose yourself. Not really lose yourself, but you can ignore life and go into another world, basically. And kind of escape life a little bit.
Yeah, just have that pastime or something. And that's another important one too, because for a lot of us, it's food was our entertainment, and that's what gave us that pleasure. When you say, hey, I can go do a puzzle, or I can go for a hike, or I could go paint something, or I could play a video game, and you're using up that time that you would use thinking about food. That's a big one, having a distractions that motivate you and stuff that you enjoy.
Yeah.
And so how do people track you down if they want to get more information?
Well, if they really want to contact me, I don't know why they would want to, but if they really want to, on Twitter would probably be the easiest place, and it would be at Old Crusty Gamer.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Old Crusty Gamer.
Yeah.
All right. Am I following you? I'm sure I've
follow
tracked you
you.
down.
I don't know if you're following me back or not, though.
All right.
But I do follow you.
I got it, man.
I
That's an
retweet
easy one.
sometimes, but I don't really tweet out much,
Yeah, but I think people like your story is so great. I mean, losing half your body weight, doing it just one day at a time, doing it, standing in the storm for your family, both of you, it's really amazing how you're doing it, and having different, I love it that you have such different approaches and mindsets and everything, and then you still kind of get through it and do your thing. And so I think this will speak to a lot of people. A lot of people, trust me, because I know a lot of people are in your situation, and trying to do it now, especially with New Year's here upon us, and everyone's going to be trying to get healthy. And some of the people will do it for 2 weeks and go, okay, I'm done, let's go out to dinner, let's get our donuts and cake, and they go back. It's so hard. It's hard to stay on track. And I think just having the support, love of family, and kind of saying, okay, kids, you're not going to do it now, but it sounds like they're all on board and they're doing great. And so just making those changes, and then when it becomes the norm, then it's easier, because it's not like everyone else is eating pizza every night and you're trying to eat your hamburger or whatever.
And instead of, also too, it could become overwhelming to think you have to change everything. Like, just pick one thing and try just for 1 month changing one thing.
Change it slowly,
because that was my fear. We're changing everything all together, all these changes, and I'm like, whoa, can we just do let's do one thing, work on that, and then slowly add another change, because it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, I went all in. She went in slower. We, like, she cut her carbs like in half and then in half again until she was lower carb, so.
Yeah, I think that, and that's the other thing that I love about your approach too. It's just like getting in the cold water. For me, I'm just jumping in. I'm not going to go in a little bit more in and out. I'm jumping in. It's going to be cold. You're going to have to deal with it. Other people, no. I got to ease in. I got to go in and get out and get in and get out. And then it takes them an hour to get into the pool. But that's okay. They still got in the pool. And I think that's a good point too, is some people are just saying, okay, what can I give up? That first step, if it's soda, and because the other big thing that comes up a lot is, okay, if you're doing, low carb cookies and donuts and stuff, if it's a bridge and that helps you stay on track, who cares? If you can go to the party, like last night, I just made some Maria Emmerich's hard-boiled egg pudding, which is actually really good. It sounds gross, but it's really good. And I'm taking it to my friend's house tonight. It's like when they're having the dessert, that's what we'll have, and guess what? They're going to eat mine first. Everyone loves it. It's really good. Thank you, Maria. Appreciate you. So, but things like that, where you say, hey, every once in a while you're gonna have something like that, and other times you say, well, I'm just not gonna have dessert. So you two are doing great. I'm glad you have each other as a support, and making that huge change from eating out every night. COVID actually helped you guys to get healthy, and that's kind of a cool thing when there's good things that come out of a bad situation. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to put this on both. I'm going to put this on Low Carb MD and Life's Best Medicine, both podcasts, because I think it'll reach a broader audience, and I think your story needs to be heard. So, Troy, I made it. What they call my own decision to do that.
Executive decision.
Executive decision. Yeah, that's right. Executive decision. So, everyone, I'm glad you could join us. Patreon supporters, thanks for your support. We greatly appreciate it. And everyone else, this is words of wisdom here and things to think about, and maybe sitting down with your husband or wife or friend or partner and saying, hey, how do we do this together? Let's just support each other in this, one step at a time. You either jump in the pool all at once, and if someone else needs to go in slow, let them go slow and do your thing. And and I'm so glad that your mood stuff got better. Those things are so critical in life. So
yeah,
you've made my day. Thanks for joining me.
Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode. We greatly appreciate your support. We would greatly appreciate a positive thumbs up on all of the platforms like iTunes and Spotify or wherever you're listening. And we just thank you for our Patreon supporters. We greatly appreciate your help in getting this message out. We think there's a lot of important information, and hopefully this helps you. Have a great day, and thank you for listening, and thank you for your support.